Under the floodlights of a modern coliseum, the air is thick with anticipation before a single whistle blows. It is a stage where billions of people and entire nations hold their breath simultaneously, projecting their collective hopes onto a narrow stretch of grass. For the athletes down on the pitch, every sprint, every tackle, and every battle for position is weighed down by a crushing psychological burden. This specific concentration of stakes and scrutiny creates the vacuum where a single action can suddenly resonate across every time zone. Across the decades of tournament history, tens of thousands of plays are recorded. Almost all of them fade into the archives. Only a microscopic fraction survive as permanent historical memories. These rare survivors pass an invisible threshold, becoming the frames by which we measure the entire history of the game. This diagram illustrates how these anomalies occur. They demand a simultaneous collision of extreme athleticism, unbearable tension, and narrative timing. By treating these moments as structured collisions, we can take apart and examine the specific mechanics of a sports miracle. We start our deconstruction at the absolute physical peak of offensive potential, the execution of the impossible strike. This diagram breaks down the extreme biomechanical complexity involved. Tracking a moving object while inverting the human body against gravity requires immense physical control. Simultaneously, the brain processes hyper-fast spatial awareness, calculating trajectory and executing the strike in a fraction of a second. Attempting this maneuver on the world stage carries a high risk, where any miscalculation results in a highly visible failure. Executing it successfully is an act of physical defiance that pulls the play out of the bounds of a normal match and into a shared history. At the opposite extreme of the pitch lies the ultimate defiance, the unbelievable save. This spatial visualization maps out the physics a goalkeeper faces when a ball is struck at high speeds from close range. Surviving this requires a rapid cognitive override. The keeper must launch their body into the path of danger, relying entirely on split-second visual cues. In these milliseconds, the goalkeeper becomes a narrative disruptor, single-handedly halting an entire opposing team's momentum. Denying a goal by a fraction of an inch creates a psychological shockwave that often reverberates longer than the goal they prevented. The final structural archetype is driven by the countdown of the match clock. Psychological tension compounds exponentially in the final moments of a tied knockout match. As time runs out, structured strategy breaks down into desperate instinct. Then comes the sudden, violent impact of a winning strike that completely rewrites the final outcome of the match. That instantaneous whiplash from despair to triumph creates a massive release of human emotional pressure. When the final whistle blows, the energy shifts away from the athletes and into the stands. We see an involuntary physiological response in the immediate aftermath: shock, awe, and uncontrollable tears. This reaction acts as a globally shared experience of deep psychological catharsis. This shared release of tension anchors the match in memory, turning a fleeting sequence of play into a permanent emotional reference point. What follows is the undeniable visual signature of a miracle: falling confetti, fireworks, and the realization of victory. It culminates with the physical manifestation of sporting immortality, resting at the center of the pitch. Decades later, the specifics of the bracket or the scoreline may fade, but these singular frames remain as the shared vocabulary of the sport. They bridge global divides, outlasting the tournament and era of the players who made them happen. Ultimately, the anatomy of a World Cup miracle reflects humanity's universal desire to witness the impossible become real.